and welcome everyone. In this video, I'm going to be doing my 2024 presidential election prediction between the incumbent president, Joe Biden, who will likely be facing off the former president, Donald Trump, if his indictments do not get in his way. Now, this is not going to be my, usual election prediction video. Instead, I'm going to be doing it with one of my supporters of this channel, whom I recently did a collab with, in, I believe, 2 videos ago. So I'm going to be doing my prediction with them. We're going to have 2 maps out, one for my prediction and one for my guest's prediction. So we have 2 interactive maps out. And I'm going to start off with prediction. We're going to do likely, lean, and tilt states for both Biden and Trump. So I'm going to begin, and then my guest who I have here, who is, a subscriber or a follower of this channel, will also be doing their prediction as well. So basically, we're going to be sharing, 2 of our predictions and seeing, what we differ on and, what we agree with. So I'm going to start off with the likely states for Donald Trump. I think Donald Trump will win the state of Ohio with a likely margin. I also do think the same for Florida, as those are states that Donald Trump did way better in 2020 than he did in 2016, and they're pretty much a lost cause for Democrats. No matter who the Democratic candidate is in 2024, I think Ohio and Florida will easily go to Donald Trump comfortably. They're pretty much lost causes at this point. I mean, with regards to Ohio issue 1, that was ultimately good for Democrats, but does Ohio issue 1 really have to do anything with the 2024 election? Possibly, but even if it does, it still should go to Donald Trump by around 9, maybe even 10 percentage points. And same for Florida. I think Florida and Ohio will vote very similarly. And also, so those are the likely states for Donald Trump I have, and same for Maine's 2nd congressional district. And now the likely states for Biden will be New York. I actually do think that New York will be closer than people expect. Now, it's still going to Biden by a large margin. Saw what happened with the governor's race, I believe in 2022. Lee Zeldin actually almost won and almost actually defeated the Democratic candidate, Kathy Hochul. And in a solid Democratic state, the Republican almost actually won. And so I think what's going on with New York, I think people don't like what they're saying, and they don't like the leadership that Democrats are bringing to the table. And it might be closer than what some people expect. And same goes for Hawaii. I actually have that likely for Joe Biden as well. Me saying Hawaii is going to go likely, it doesn't mean that's going to be close for Donald Trump. I just think it's going to be closer than what people expect, but I still do think Joe Biden should win that comfortably. I just think what happened with the Maui fires, people, might not be happy with what Biden has done. Now, it's still probably going to Joe Biden, as we all know. And I also do think that Colorado and New Mexico will be likely for Joe Biden as well. Now, I think New Mexico will be closer than Colorado. I think Colorado is a little bit more to the left than New Mexico is, but I still think they should vote with similar margins. I think New Mexico will probably go for Biden by around 6 to 7 points, probably less than in 2020, but still will go to him. Colorado will probably go to Biden by around 7 to 8 points. It's still very blue states, but I think with what happened with the governorship, with what New Mexico's governor is doing with regards to the Second Amendment, I think that's people are realizing that that's unconstitutional with what New Mexico's governor is doing with the Second Amendment, and Joe Biden is probably still going to win those 2 states, but probably by a lesser margin. Now, we're going to be moving on to my subscriber and see what he thinks on the likely states for both Biden and Donald Trump.
Just like, let's talk politics. I do think Ohio will be likely to Donald Trump, along with Florida. Those 2 states, I do believe will go to Donald Trump because, just like he said, they're lost causes. They are very Republican states, although if you look at 2016, Donald Trump gained percentage in Florida, but lost a little bit in Ohio. But still, Ohio is a very Republican state along with Florida. Another, so the next state is Iowa. Iowa will be going to Donald Trump. Again, not by much. I mean, by a lot, but by won't be catching up to him. so it's not a close state like it is with Florida and Ohio. Um, Again with Colorado, those two states, Colorado and New Mexico, will be going to Biden, to by a little bit. I do think Joe Biden will not do as well as in those two states as he had previously. Um, but again, I don't think those people are seeing how the Democrats are running their states and how they're doing this and that and all these gun control things. So Biden will win Colorado and New Mexico in 2024. I don't think they will change to Republican anytime soon, but Biden will definitely win those two states.
Guests map, and now let's go back to my map, and we're moving on to the lean states for both Biden and Donald Trump. I think Virginia will be going to Joe Biden by a lean margin. I think I think Glenn Youngkin, the governor, the Republican governor of Virginia, actually has a high approval rating, while Joe Biden actually has a low approval rating in the state. So that will tip off some support going into Donald Trump's favor, but it still does not mean that Donald Trump will win the state. I think Virginia will be lean for Joe Biden, probably around 6 percentage points, maybe even 7. But now another lean state for Joe Biden will be the state of Michigan. I think Michigan is going to vote for Biden. I think they're going to vote to the left, just how they did in 2020. Now, Donald Trump did win the state in 2016, so I do expect it to be close. But I think Joe Biden should win it around the same margin he did in 2020. The Detroit suburbs have shifted towards the left in Michigan, and Gretchen Whitmer, her governor's race victory in 2022, the Democratic governor, she did very good. She ultimately destroyed the Republican candidate, and I think Michigan's Republican Party is just an utter disaster. And as long as that continue to happen, I think Michigan will vote for Biden in 2024, probably around 2 to 3 percentage points. Not too much for Biden, but also it's still going to be very close. And now, two more lean states for Joe Biden. Those are going to be Minnesota and New Hampshire. Now, Minnesota is a state that voted for Joe Biden in 2020 and voted for Hillary Clinton in 2016. Donald Trump never won the state of Minnesota, and I don't think so. He will in 2024. I think Biden should hold on to the state of Minnesota, probably around 5 to 6 percentage points. I just think Republicans are, they're funding in the state of Minnesota. The amount of money they're spending in Minnesota is just like nothing compared to Democrats. And I just think Donald Trump is not going to win Minnesota. And then as for New Hampshire, I think will probably be, they'll vote the same. They'll vote pretty similarly. Minnesota and New Hampshire, I think they'll both lean for Joe Biden. New Hampshire will probably vote for Biden by around 4 to 5%. And Donald Trump is a pro-life candidate, and New Hampshire, we're talking, is a pro-choice state. Typically, pro-life candidates don't do that well in pro-choice states. So with that being said, I think New Hampshire is going to reject Donald Trump. Now, I think it will be closer than in 2020, but I still think New Hampshire will vote for Joe Biden. And now, as for the lean states for Donald Trump, I think Georgia will be going to Donald Trump by a lean margin, as well as the state of Texas. And as well as New Hampshire, I think those 3 states will be lean for Donald Trump. I just think that Georgia, now, Kamala Harris, people argue that Kamala Harris will bring out the black African American voter turnout and get them to turn out, but I doubt that. I don't think that's going to happen. Whether Kamala Harris is African American or not, or she's mixed, it doesn't matter. I just don't think she's going to get them to turn out because she's just so unpopular, and especially with an economy like this, the African American community is noticing the failures that Joe Biden is bringing to the table when it comes to, the economy, inflation, gas prices, all of that. I think African American voter turnout in the state of Georgia specifically, I just think they're not going to get the same turnout they did in 2020 when it comes to African Americans. I think Democrats won't get the same turnout they did in 2020. I think Joe Biden got lucky when he won in 2020, whether you believe it, when it comes to Georgia specifically. The state of Georgia, I think Joe Biden got a little bit lucky, whether you believe in luck or not. He won it by 0.2%. 0.2 was the margin Joe Biden won it. That is, the smallest of all small margins. And with that being said, when it comes to Kamala Harris's and Biden's approval rating, I expect Georgia to flip for Donald Trump. I expect him to win it by around 3 percentage points. And for Texas, this is a state where Democrats hoped they would flip in 2020. They failed. And they tried in 2016. That didn't go their way. And I don't think 2024 will be the year that Texas flipped blue. Maybe in the 2030s, but 2024 will not be the year Texas flips blue. I just don't think so. Now, with what Greg Abbott is doing at the border, with the humanitarian crisis, I think some people may be, mad about what he's doing with the buoys and the saws he put into the Rio Grande River. That's not going to help Republicans, but it still does not mean Biden's going to win the state. So, and especially, how unpopular Biden is, yeah, Texas is not going to flip in 2024. Maybe in 2030, maybe in the future, but for 2024 specifically, no. It's going to be in Donald Trump's column, and as well as North Carolina. North Carolina is a state that Donald Trump won 2 times in a row. Make that 3 times in a row. I think Trump should win North Carolina by around 2.5 percentage points, somewhere around there. He won it in 2020, and Joe Biden was, I would say more favored in 2020 than he is in 2024. So with that being said, North Carolina should remain for Donald Trump. And now this is my map. We're going to be moving on to our guests' lean states.
So, my lean state, one of them is Minnesota. That has been known as a very Democratic state. I do not think Donald Trump will even get close to Biden in that state. Although it will be closer than it was in 2020. Another lean state for me is Virginia. Now, Glenn Youngkin, just like Let's Talk Politics said, he does have a better approval rating than Donald Trump. But that does not mean Donald Trump will win Virginia. Donald Trump is way more popular than Glenn Youngkin, and his policies might be a little bit different on how Glenn Youngkin did in that state. And then my last lean blue state is New Hampshire. I do not think Donald Trump will win New Hampshire in 2024. And he didn't win it in 2020. I do not think that will be a state that goes to him in 2024. And my last state that I do not think will be lean blue is Michigan. I think that will be a tilt to blue because I think Donald Trump will do a little bit better in Michigan in 2024 than he did in 2020. Because he won it in 2016 by a good margin. Still very close, but in 2020, Biden won by like 200,000. So I do still think that Trump can flip Michigan maybe in 2024. And then my lean red states are, of course, Texas. I do not think Texas will go blue in 2024, nor do I think it will go blue in 2028. But again, in the future, maybe around like 2040, 2036, it will go blue, definitely. And then North Carolina, I do think, is a lean to Donald Trump. Yeah, I do think Donald Trump will win North Carolina by like 2 percentage points, maybe. He won it by like 3 in 2020. And then Georgia, I think, will be a tilt, not going to Biden. I think it will be a tilt to Donald Trump because Donald Trump lost Georgia in 2020 by 13,000 votes. So that is a tilt to Donald Trump. I do not believe that is a lean. So this is my map so far for the 2024 election.
That Biden's tilt states will be Pennsylvania. I just think that, Pennsylvania is a state that Joe Biden won it with a margin of around 1.5 percentage points, I believe, like 1.5% or 1.2% in 2020. So I think this is a state where it's definitely up for grabs for Donald Trump, and Donald Trump won it in 2016, so he definitely can in 2024. And considering Joe Biden's, popularity, his approval, and basically, by the way, Donald Trump is actually leading Biden on the generic ballot as if right now by 0.5%. If you take a look at 538.com or Real Clear Politics, Donald Trump is actually beating Joe Biden when it comes to generic ballot. And actually, that leads to the popular vote, which I think Donald Trump can actually maybe even come close to winning the popular vote. But that's for a different story. But I still think that it's going to Joe Biden. I think, the Philadelphia area, the Pittsburgh area, those big cities in the Pennsylvania area will be voting for Joe Biden. Now, I think Joe Biden is going to be very close. It's going to be Pennsylvania will be closer than it was in 2020. So I think Pennsylvania, the margin for Biden will probably be less than a percentage point, maybe 0.3, 0.4, or maybe 0.6 for Joe Biden. I think that's how close I think Pennsylvania will be. But at the end of the day, I think it's going to tilt narrowly for Biden at the end of the day. And now, one more tilt state for Joe Biden, and that is the state of Arizona. Now, I actually do think that Donald Trump can pull off the state of Arizona just how he did in 2016. He won it by 3 percentage points. Now, you can argue that Hillary Clinton was a failed candidate. Well, even if she was, Joe Biden Joe Biden in 2024 is pretty much the same as Hillary Clinton in 2016. Now, Joe Biden was stronger of a candidate in 2020 than he is now in 2024. So with that being said, I think Trump can definitely win the state of Arizona, and if he does, I won't be surprised. Now, the reason why I have, Arizona going for Donald Trump is actually Arizona going for Joe Biden is because I think I don't have a reason that Donald Trump can win the state of Arizona. What happened with the 2022 Senate and governor's midterms, Carrie Lake she did horrible. She was a failed candidate. And Donald Trump better not pick her as, his VP, and I don't think he would. And that's what some Democrats are hoping for. So Carrie Lake was a horrible candidate, and I don't like what Donald Trump did in the 2022 midterms when it comes to Arizona specifically. Picking Blake Masters, Carrie Lake, those are two failed candidates, and it easily gave Democrats the win both in the governorship and the Senate. So, also, Donald Trump does not do well with the John McCain-style voters. And yes, the John McCain-style voters in the state of Arizona make up a big percentage of the voter group in Arizona. And as long as those John McCain-style voting, some Republicans would call neocons, they, maybe won't turn out for Donald Trump. And they didn't in 2020. That's the big reason why Joe Biden actually won that state. And also, independents make up a big, percentage of the Arizona voting bloc as well. Independent support. So if Donald Trump can, win the independent support, he would probably win the state of Arizona. But until I see it, maybe things can change and things will change. So as we get closer to 2024, maybe I will have Arizona going for Donald Trump. But as of right now, I think that's going to go to Joe Biden by around under 1%. I think it's going to be extremely close. And Arizona is a state that barely went to Joe Biden by around 0.4% in 2020. So, it can definitely go either way. I see it going for Biden by narrowly less than a percentage point. And now, the tilt states for Donald Trump I have in 2024 will be 2 states, Nevada and Wisconsin. I think those states will be going to Donald Trump by tilt margins. Nevada is a state that Republicans expected to do well in the 2022 midterms, and did they? Not really. I mean, they did get the governor's race, but they did not get the Senate. And, Nevada is a state where if you look up, northern Nevada, it's very Republican up there. And pretty much all of Nevada is red, but the thing that's holding Republicans back from actually winning the state in the general election is the Vegas area. And if Donald Trump can pull off some support away from Joe Biden into Trump's favor in the Vegas area, I think Donald Trump can pull off the state of Nevada. And considering, how, bad of a job Joe Biden is doing, and Joe Biden is not actually doing well amongst independents. He's actually losing independent support. So as long as that continues to happen, Nevada can definitely flip into Trump's favor. And as far as Wisconsin goes, Wisconsin narrowly went to Joe Biden in 2020, and you're looking at a 2024 election where Joe Biden is more unpopular, unfavored than he's ever been ever before. And with that being said, I expect Wisconsin to flip into Donald Trump's favor. So I think Donald Trump should win Wisconsin by around a tilt margin, under 1 percentage point. So yeah, this is my finalized map for 2024 as if right now. Things will change in the future. 271 electoral votes for Joe Biden, narrowly winning as if right now. Things can change. 267 for Donald Trump. Donald Trump barely falls short. I think this election will actually be way closer than what some people may expect. Now, this is not a final prediction, but this is the finalized map for this video currently. Obviously, this is not my final prediction. That won't be until November of 2024. So now, this is my final map, and now let's move on to what my subscriber or my follower thinks on the tilt states, or, his finalized map.
My tilt to blue will be PA. Again, Philly and Pittsburgh will turn PA to a Democratic-leaning state, narrower than it was in 2020. I think Joe Biden will win Pennsylvania by around 50,000 more votes than Donald Trump. My next tilt to blue will be Nevada. As you know, Nevada did not do well in the midterms, and it was farther apart in 2020 between Joe Biden and Donald Trump than Arizona was. So with that being said, I think that Arizona will be red in 2024 because Donald Trump lost Arizona by 11,000 in 2020, but he won it in 2016. So I'm a little bit still deciding on Arizona, but I do think Arizona will go to Donald Trump in 2024, and then Wisconsin. Donald Trump lost Wisconsin by 20,000 exactly. I'm pretty sure in 2020, but I think he can win Wisconsin again in 2024. So I'm gonna have to put Wisconsin as a tilt to red. And this will be my final 2024 map as of right now for this video. And I will be doing, I will have another map maybe again by November of 2024 with Let's Talk Politics on how we think each state will turn out right before the election of 2024.